compared today, we're so puny, but we're going to send our men into space. And the executive went down and he saw a lady. And he wanted to test if everybody was really empowered and excited about it. And he said to her, she was cleaning the stairs, scrubbing them the old-fashioned way with a bucket and a brush. And he says to her, he said, "Excuse me, but what is your job here?" She looked at him. She said, "My job? My job's to put a man on the moon." I have a question for you. Is your mission that you're excited about, could the people that you work with and for, whether you're or at home or in the community, do they understand what your mission is? Are they excited about it? If they are, it's wonderful, because you will get people to follow you that way. A mission that matters. You see, one of the big differences between management and leadership, we all need managers. We need good managers. But management is the how-to. Leadership is the why. And when you have a mission that matters, you know what you stand for. That's the why of it all. Making people understand that they're valuable, that they make a difference. It's a very exciting thing to be able to do. Being focused. Focused just about a mission that matters, but also being focused on this. It is a quote that I have in the book I wrote, and some of you may see it, and it says this, that we lead first by example. Everything we say, everything we do sends a message, sets a tone, or teaches people what to do or what not to do. Everything. When you say you're going to be a leader, oh boy, do they put you under the microscope and they watch. My oldest son, Mike, had our first grandchild, Mike Jr., and we call him MJ. And my son brought him over, and MJ at that time was about 14 months old. And Mike had him on his hip, and you know how a baby will straddle the hip. And Mike came in, he was holding the little guy, and Mike and I were talking. And in college, Mike was a debate champ. So one of the things we do for fun is we take a topic and take the opposite sides and just go at it. And so we were having a really good debate, and he was holding little MJ. Now, my son has an arm movement that he uses when he debates that he likes to use to intimidate. He goes like this big arm movement. And little MJ, he's watching Dad, watching Grandma, watching Dad, watching Grandma. And when he figures out that we're all through, gets a big grin on his face and goes. And Mike said, "Oh, Mom." I said, "Welcome to parenthood, son." He is going to learn more about how to act and live in this world by your words and your actions than anything else that goes on out there in the world. Leading by example. You see, the word is congruity. When you walk your talk, you know what? When you walk your talk, everybody wins. And when you don't, unfortunately, everybody loses. I think that a leader today needs to start each morning, before you start your work, say to yourself, what message am I going to send today by my example? What message am I sending to the people that are going to follow me and try to help them to be the best that they can be? Leading by example. Now, also, what do we want to focus on? We want to focus on continuing the professionalism that you have all brought to your industry through this designation. Continuing professionalism. Always to be as good as you can be. How many of you have ever ridden with what I would call a professional taxi cab driver? Have you? I'll tell you, in my city where I live, San Francisco, everything is built up. As you probably know, there's no real estate. Nothing is built out. It's built up. And our front door is 56 steps from the street. Now, the bad news is, when I call a taxi cab driver to take me out to the airport to go off and speak or whatever, they drive up, they see those steps, they're not coming up those 56 steps. They pull up in the driveway downstairs and they just honk the horn. And I have to drag my bags down. I got up early one morning. I was going across the country, early flight. I called, and they said, well, cab will be there in a few minutes. Wasn't just a few minutes. It was instantaneous. Bam, the front doorbell rang. And I said to Bill, I said, honey, who could be here so fast? For heaven's sakes, it's so early. And I went to the top of those 56 steps. I opened the front door. There was a man standing there. I was shocked to see anybody. And let me tell you what he looked like. Gentlemen, do you remember when there was a time that you used to like to wear what we called polyester leisure suits? Green. big fat wide tie, too short, couldn't tuck in his trousers, a little Irish cap on his head and a smile from ear to ear, and he says, "Good morning, I'm here to take you to the airport." I said, "You're my cab driver?" He said, "I am indeed. Do you have any bags this morning?" I said, "Yes." And I gave it to him, and he went down. Now, I got ready very quickly. I followed him down. I went down, and there was the cleanest cab you have ever seen. You could have eaten off of the trunk or the hood. He saw me coming. He rushes over. He opens the back door. I get in. He closes the door, and on the back seat next to me were 3 morning newspapers nicely lined up for me to read. And I thought, wow, this is really nice. He gets in the front, closes the door, puts his arm over the back seat, and with a big smile on his face, he said, "You know, it's so nice to have you with me this morning." I was so shocked, I almost said, "It's nice to be had." He said, "Shall we go now?" I said, "That'd be real nice." We're driving down the highway. He said, "Would you like to have a cup of coffee this morning?" I said, "I can't stop. I have a plane to make." He says, "Oh, no, you don't understand." He goes into the glove compartment. He comes out with 2 styrofoam cups. He takes one, he gives me one, and up off of the front seat, he's got a thermos of hot coffee. Now, I want to tell you, I don't like coffee. But my mother gave me good manners. If he's pouring, I'm drinking. He drops me off at the airport. That's a Tuesday. I'm out around the country doing my speeches during the week. On Friday, I'm not even back yet. He calls my office and he says to my assistant, Linda, he said, now, introduces himself, tells her his name is Frank, and he said, now let me say, next week, what airline is she taking? What time? If she has extra bags or boxes, not to worry. He said, I will be there to pick her up. Or if I'm off duty, I will make sure that somebody else is there. Not to worry. He said, I am now in charge of transportation. Linda said, excuse me? And you know what? For 2 years, I never called another cab. He was there every single time. In fact, in the beginning of our relationship, I started to take him a croissant to go with the coffee. Frank was so good. I got in the cab with him one morning. We'd been riding together for about 6 months. And I said, Frank, you are so good. You have taken cab driving to the highest level of professionalism. What is your secret? And he said, well, I have several. I said, well, would you share? And he said, sure. Let me give you the most important. He reaches into his wallet, opened it up, pulls out a 4x6 card. And he said, look, Sheila, I come in the morning. Before I leave to pick up my first customer, he says, I want to make sure I'm right on it, that I'm focused on what makes me good at what I do. And he showed me this list, and it looked like the checkoff list of a 757 airplane. He said, in the morning before I leave, to be sure, I get out that list every morning, and I look at it, and I check it off, check off those items, check it off, oops, check that one out, check it off, check it off, check it off, check it off. And I thought, thank you, Lord. This is such an incredible example. Frank, you talk about accountability, responsibility. He was absolutely a pro. You know, and what was best of all about Frank? Frank was CEO of Frank. And wouldn't we all like to be CEO of us? You see, that's the key, building that professionalism. I call it lifelong learning. Continuous learning. You see, once you get a wonderful designation like you have, it's just the beginning. It's the place where now you get to shine. You've gone through all the hard work. Now you get to show your professionalism. But there's one thing I've learned over the last 35, 40 years is that school's never out for the leader. Never a time when we can stop learning. There's a wonderful expression that says, the person who won't read isn't any better off than the person who can't read. It's the key. Reading is the key. So we learn and we grow. And now it's so wonderful. We have cassettes on tape and all sorts of ways to read and get the information that we need. But I challenge you for this. I challenge you to have your own written personal development study plan. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do next week, next month, next year? You see, there's no time to stop growing, and it feels good when you reach a goal, as you have and as I have. But the challenge to both of us is to say, what am I going to do now? My lifelong learning. I have 2 French granddaughters. They live in Paris. One of my sons moved to France, married a French woman. My 2 French granddaughters, up until now, hugs and kisses on the telephone of work, the little French, a little English, little kisses back and forth. That was fine. But I now have 2 very gorgeous, beautiful, fall-down, gorgeous French coquette granddaughters. And grandma needs to learn to speak French, because they are coming to stay with us. And one of my goals now is to be really fluent in French, particularly teenage fluent. That's a different kind of language. That's one of my goals. And you have 3 things. Big challenge for you, and I know it, is you've got to continually build your business skills, your people skills, and your technical skills at exactly the same time. That's a big order. I saw a wonderful cartoon in Computer Magazine. I love to look at these technical magazines and try to learn. Cute cartoon. There was a computer, person standing next to it, and over the computer were the words, the bubble, and it said, I can be upgraded, can you? We have to constantly upgrade ourselves. So you see, focusing on professionalism and lifelong learning, that's very, very important for our own personal feelings that we really can make a difference, and to the example that we set to others. Now, I promised you earlier that I would share a little bit more with you about customer service and customer focus. Do you remember that I said management is about how, and we have to be very good at the how? Leadership is the why, to empower and excite people. Customer focus and customer service is very close to the same thing. Customer service is the how, knowing how to do it. But customer focus, which is a very big difference, is why we do what we do. Bill and I went downtown San Francisco to do some shopping. And we were going into a department store. And I said to him, sweetheart, why are we going in here when the world-famous retailer, Nordstrom's, Nordy's? Nordstrom's, it's just 2 doors down. We could go buy it there. And he said, well, honey, because they don't have what I want. We have to go here. I said, yeah, but the legend is that Nordstrom's will come over here, buy the item, and sell it to us through their store. And he says, oh, I don't really want to go to that much trouble. And I said, okay, fine. So we went into the store. And Bill got what he wanted. Lady put it in the bag. He signed the credit card slip, put the slip in the bag, closed it up, gave it to Bill, and we started to walk away. And as we walked away, the lady that sold it to us, it was very embarrassing because she yelled out loud. She said, hey, you two, come back here. And gosh, we were embarrassed. We ran over very quickly, and Bill said, yes, what is it? She said, give me that bag. So he gave her the bag. She goes in, she reaches in, pulls out the sales receipt, slaps it down on the counter, and writes across it, thank you. And handed it back. And then she said, we have to do that now that Nordstrom's is in town. As we walked away, I said, sweetheart, I think she's a little unclear on the concept. Whoa. Somebody told her how, but boy, somebody sure didn't tell her why. Not too long after that, the extreme opposite example. Bill and I went off to visit a client. Now, if you know anything about the San Francisco Bay Area, it's like a jelly bean. But with traffic being what it is, you can take 2 hours just to get around the bay. So Bill and I had gone over to meet with a client, and we were talking about doing some consulting work in sales and leadership and communications, etc. And one of the executives said to us as we were leaving, Sheila and Bill, would you be able to get us your full proposal by Saturday morning, because we're having an executive retreat, and we want to make our mind up of which of the 3 firms that we were interviewing, you included, that we're going to hire. And we said, oh, absolutely. Yes, be happy to do that. So we left. Bill and I got in the car. He's driving, sitting there. I'm in the passenger seat. And we're talking about, oh my gosh, how in the world are we going to get this done? Because I had to go on the road for 2 or 3 days. Bill was really busy on some things. And we said, I don't think we can even put it in Amex or FedEx and just overnight it just across the bay. He said, you know what, honey, we're going to have to get up Saturday morning and drive it over ourselves because we've got to keep our commitment to good service. And I said, you're right. Just as he said that, I looked out next to us, driving down the highway, 55, 60 miles an hour, was a white van. And written on the side of the van were the words, Express It, Bay Area Courier Service, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and a telephone number. And I said, thank you, God. You know, God gives us little presents every now and then, just to remind us that he's there. I grabbed a piece of paper and pencil, and I was writing the telephone number down that was on the side of the van. And the young man that was driving the van saw me, and he tooted the horn, and he waved at me. So I waved back. And in sign language, he said, do you want us? I said, yes. I'm writing it down. He says, no, no, no. And it's 60 miles an hour down the highway. He rolls down his window. He's going to try to hand me a brochure. Guess who the dummy is? It's going to go over and roll her window down. Bill said, Sheila, don't do that. This is way too dangerous. So I signaled. I said to him, no, no, no. It's okay. I will call you. He said, okay, toots his horn, off he goes. And as he drove away, I saw on the back an ID number, and I wrote that down. We went back to the office, signed up for their service, and I said to the lady who answered the phone, I said, if I give you the telephone number the ID number of one of your vans, could you tell me who was driving? She said, sure. So I gave her the number. She told me. And I said, let me tell you something. You got to give that kid a raise. He really understands what customer service and customer focus is. But I want to tell you something. I did not say where I met him. I wanted to get him a raise, not get him fired. You see, the key that I found out, and it was so funny because both of those experiences were so close together. Let me give you what I have, in my opinion, is the bottom line of customer service and customer focus. It's one question, and it permeates everything that I do, permeates everything you do, with every person you deal with, every interaction, and it is a sentence, and it's a question to answer to stay on top of it. And it goes like this. How do I make it easy to do business with me? We all want people to make it easy to do business with. So we need to, as leaders in your industry, hopefully in my industry, that we make it easy for people to deal with us. And every company that I talk to, I say, put up signs, put up banners, make cards, put it on people's desks, put it in their cars, trucks, everywhere that anyone ever comes in contact with a customer, whether the customer is internal or external, and say, how do I make it easy to do business with me? Because that's the key to really, really understanding customer service and customer focus. By the way, I want to tell you what I decided to do when I retire from this speaking business. I'm going to apply to work at Walmart. I want to be a Walmart greeter. Wouldn't that be a great job? 4 hours a day, you get to stand there and hug cute little babies and shake people's hands and welcome them and give them as much help as possible. What a great way to live. Focus. We want to be sure we focus on a mission, on our example, on being professional, on lifelong learning, and customer service and customer focus. Now, what's the third F? The third F is the word called fostering. Fostering. What do I mean by that? I mean that we need to foster several things. One, we did it earlier. Marcia talked about it. We need to foster an environment wherever we operate that people network. We need to help others come together, bring our ideas, the excitement, the enthusiasm, come together to learn. And a leader must be very aware of how he or she is fostering a networking environment. Because that's going to be the key, not just for us, but for everybody else. So first of all, network. Get rid of unnecessary paperwork and processes that really don't need to be there. Take a hard look at them and say, how can we cut out that and get people networking? Now, what else do we want to foster? Well, I call it being a cheerleader, fostering other people's confidence and self-esteem. And we want to do that. To be a